everyone. Welcome back again to another episode of Generally Divided, a podcast YouTube show where two generations talk about different topics from our perspectives, and sometimes they mesh and sometimes they don't. Today's topic is movies versus their books, or should it be books versus their movies adaptations?
That's more accurate.
Okay, so let's get right into it. What do you think is better?
It's a very difficult choice, but honestly, I say books beat movies when it comes to their movie adaptations.
And why? What's your opinion? What makes you think that? Don't just give me books.
Well, you asked me which one.
Well, I expected you to elaborate, but
All right, elaboration. Well, in many cases, the books offer more detail. They are constrained by time, so a book can be 100 pages, it can be 50 pages, it can be as far as 1,000 pages of just detail on each of the characters in general, which oftentimes movies are constrained to an hour and 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours. I know there's a movie that is 3 hours, 4 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, it's just a lot to try and copy everything word for word, detail for detail from a book into a movie. And a lot of times those books people fall in love with, like Harry Potter. Hugely, the movies are amazing, but it falls really short when it comes to just the detail, the magnitude of the books and the creatures and the characters' development. There's just so much that we don't see. I gratefully got to read both the books and see the movies. So I know there's a big difference, especially in character detail. A lot of the characters are very different because you can't always find an actor that will look 100% like how you see it in the book. And a lot of people's adaptations are just drastically different.
I agree. I mean, I think the books' versions of stories are better. And the reason why I feel that way is that when we watch a movie adaptation of a book, we are seeing the screenwriter, the director adaptation or version of that story, right? When we read a book, we're the director inside our mind. We're the artist, the set designer, right? So we read it and we envision it within our own minds. So that can lead us to something completely different than, say, what a director gave us on the screen. Now, they both may be good in their own right, but no one's going to be able to top your version of a character because it's your version, your interpretation of that character. I think the one where I would say where maybe it is better slightly is Jurassic Park, because the book was great. I love the book, Michael Crichton. It was fantastic. He was detailed. But I think seeing it on the screen really, in dinosaurs, it just really made it come to life. More so than reading about it, I think. That was my one movie where I felt like the book or the movie outshone the book.
I agree with you on that one. I'm actually surprised you picked Jurassic Park of all movies. But no, I actually do agree with you. The book is very technical, so it takes a very high level of understanding and being able to put in perspective in your own mind what the writer is trying to say. If you haven't read Jurassic Park, there is a lot of technical parts of the book.
The science.
The science. They show you their graphs. They show you all the numbers, really,
DNA
just everything.
sequencing,
The DNA sequencing. It's just a lot for someone's mind if you're not prepared. Mm-hmm. That is a very good book, but it is very difficult to put into your own mind and comprehend if you're not ready for it. The movies, I guess, they don't simplify it, they magnify it. And then on the screen, you can actually see what the writer was trying to say and trying to portray. And it's actually elegantly put for a lot of people who just cannot comprehend it. I mean, my first go around on the book, I didn't even comprehend most of it. I had to read that book twice to understand it. But yeah, no, that was actually a really good pick for movies versus books on that one. I was surprised.
Of course it was. Come on. But on the other hand, there are authors, and my favorite author is a British gentleman by the name of David Gemmell. And he has, before he passed away, he repeatedly said that he never wanted to see his books made into movies because they would never be able to capture how he envisioned the actor or the character portrayed. Or it would the director or film producer would never be able to truly capture the whole story. Now, I, for one, I can see what he's saying there, but I would love personally to see one of his stories or books made into a movie just so I could cheer it on screen. Just so everyone, I think movies are a better way and a quicker way to get to a bigger audience. Because yes, books are great. We love them, both of us. But can we say that about everyone? Can we say that everyone loves to go read the books? No, people just sometimes they won't even know about a story, and their first introduction to it is with the movie.
That is the case for a lot of books. I know a lot of my friends and a lot of family members actually, their first introduction to a lot of books and a lot of stories were through their movie adaptations, and then I recommended the book to them, and they fell in love with that too as well. Mm-hmm. It actually made the movies better because now you're looking at the movies and you're like, I know exactly what that person means, or I know what this is referencing.
Right.
Something that they can't fully describe. They get to see it, in the book and in the movie. But talking about David Gemmell, I would love to see what is it, Sword in the Storm?
Yes, Sword in the Storm.
That was my first introduction. That movie would be amazing.
You're welcome, by the way.
He introduced me to that one. That one was an amazing book. If you haven't read it, Sword in the Storm by David Gemmell. Amazing book. He has a lot of books, but that one for me was my first one.
Is there any other books out there aside from David Gemmell that you would love to see made into a movie that hasn't been done yet?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of them. Let's see. For me personally, it would have to be the final series of Percy Jackson that hasn't even been touched yet.
Okay.
Right now, the directors are working on a TV series for
I heard about
Disney
that.
Plus.
I think I told you about that.
Yeah, you did tell me about that, but before you told me about that, I did see a post from the writer Rick Riordan. Mm-hmm. He actually made a post on Facebook saying that he was confirmed. It's in the box. It's already going. Personally, for me, I would like to see the last adaptation of his books. When the characters are much older, that is just something I've wanted to see. They started with the characters, obviously, mm-hmm. the first books, the first series, and those were great. Very different from the books. I've had the pleasure of reading all of those Percy Jackson series. I started the Nordic series, and I have yet to go down to the Egyptian series, which he has out. But yes, the last series of Percy Jackson, talking all about the Roman and Greek gods combined, is just huge scale. I would love to see something of that adapted to film.
Hopefully it will be then, because then I'll get to learn about it, because I have not read any of his books.
Oh, they're really
I'll
good.
say that. So it's not, I mean, they sound great. I just haven't taken or made the effort to. Now, there's a couple books that I've read that I know are being adapted into movies, and one is called Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, the same author who wrote The Martian, and that's going to be a great movie. If it turns out half of what I pictured it in my mind, it's going to be fantastic. The other one, which I'm hoping they'll do, is Ready Player 2 by Ernest Cline, because they made Ready Player 1, which was fantastic. Ready Player 2, great book. Hopefully they can translate it into a movie form, especially with the way Oculus and the VR world is really, really ramping up to be the next big thing. The immersive video games there. And of course, that's what Ready Player 1 and now Ready Player 2 is about, although it goes another level, which if you've read it, you know. If you haven't read it, go read it so you'll know what I'm talking about. But those are two books that I would love to see made into movies.
Yeah, Ready Player 1, that is right there. That right there is exactly what we're talking about, books compared to movies. If you haven't read Ready Player 1, definitely read it. The book is absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. I loved the movies, and that was my first introduction to Ready Player One, was the movie. Which I actually wish it was the reverse. I wish I read the book first, then watched the movie. Because there's a lot of things in the book that actually are way better explained than in the movies. And just the way that the story's told is actually 10 times different than what you'd expect. So if you haven't read it yet, definitely read that book, and then try and go back and watch the movie and just do your own little comparison right there and see what your opinion is on that. But yeah, it's really good.
What's a book, and this ties into Ready Player One as well, what's a book that the author wrote that he hated the movie adaptation of?
I know this one. I read Ready Player One. I know this one. I just cannot remember off the top of my head.
Well, it's not in the book. It's in the movie.
Well, yeah, they talk about it in the movie.
The Shining
Yes.
by Stephen King. He hated the movie adaptation of it, which is okay, I guess. But the sequel, Doctor Sleep, was a fantastic movie. I've yet to read the book, but the movie was fantastic. I liked it. I'll go out there and say I like Doctor Sleep better than I like The Shining, even though The Shining is a classic.
Well, yeah, that's understandable. I mean, the Doctor Sleep, it had time to be adapted better. I feel if they redid The Shining, or if they did a fix adaptation of that, and they used the technology of today, I'm sure they could really find a director, find someone that can actually put all of that into perspective, because the books are amazing. The Shining books, the chapters, pretty much everything having to do with that series, really amazing pieces of art just when it comes to books. Those are really just still talked about today. I mean, that's how good they are. They're still talked about even today in this time. Everybody hears about them, and their movies are amazing. Dr. Sleep was amazing. It's really good books.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Stephen King, for all of your fine work.
And for giving us nightmares sometimes.
Well, all of you out there, if you have a book versus movie adaptation that you liked one way or the other better, please mention in the comments. Let us know which you preferred, which you like better. Do you like to read it first, watch the movie first, and then go back and read the book? Let us know. We want to hear from you. And yeah, thanks for tuning in again. Be sure to follow us right here on our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media, on Twitter, and we look forward to talking to you again. So we'll see you next time, all.